Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again. Here in this video, the title is Act Vows End to Race-Based Hiring, Attacks Opportunities, Donation Double Standard, stuff.co.nz. This was a reaction video request, so let's jump in.
Well, Erica Stanford's decision to finally speak about the leadership challenge overshadowed a busy Sunday of policy announcements from ACT and the Opportunity Party. Opportunity held a public rally in Auckland, while ACT was back raising an issue it has long promised to address. Carlos Norton explains.
One law for all. ACT campaigning on an issue close to its heart.
It's not a matter of when your ancestors got here, but what you have to offer to your fellow New Zealanders today that really matters.
Announcing an election policy taking...
What's that all about? It's not about when your ancestors got here. Maybe I should have let it play a little bit longer.
Aim at what David Seymour calls race-based hiring by reforming public service legislation.
The public service does not need its own parallel regime that enables and empowers some of this discriminatory hiring.
Well, okay, well, I guess we're going to hear about what they mean by the discriminatory hiring, but I don't think it's too hard to work out what he's talking about. I mean, I agree. Like, what's the point of why should you and why do we look to employ people from the diverse backgrounds if they don't have the skill or the competency or the ability or expertise, whatever wording you want to use, in order to fill the role? You know what I mean? It's like, it reminds me of, probably because the rugby and the world's greatest tourism, but the South Africans, didn't they, the South African Springbok rugby team, didn't they used to have wasn't there like a decision or a ruling around a quota that they had to have a certain number of black players within the Springboks team? Don't quote me on that. I thought that was part of the case, or at some point in time with regards to Springbok rugby. But I mean, like, if you've got players that are better than, say, a black person, if the Springboks thing that I've just mentioned was true, I'm sure I heard that a while ago now. It must have been a few years ago. I don't think they have that anymore, or maybe they do. So those South Africans that might watch this channel, or people that know more about that than me, feel free to let me know in the comments, correct me, or bring it up in a live stream or whatever. But it just, you want the best people for the job, I guess is what I'm getting at. Not, oh, it'd be great to have diversity, and we need a Maori voice, or we need a Tongan voice, or we need a Anglo-Saxon voice, and we need a Chinese voice, and a Japanese voice, and an Indian voice, and blink, and this, that, and the other. Just get whoever is the most qualified and suitable and competent and capable of doing the job. Doesn't seem that hard.
Tory hiring in the form of greater consideration for Māori and honouring Te Tiriti. ACT's policy sets out...
Hang on, what was that?
Empowers some of this discriminatory hiring.
Discriminatory hiring in the form of greater consideration for Māori and honouring Te Tiriti. ACT's policy...
Well, that is rubbish. If that's not what the guy's saying, I mean, it's rubbish if that is what's happening. If recruitment and hiring of my people, who I'm proud to be a Māori, but if the recruitment and hiring within organizations is based on a tokenism of we've got to have a certain number of Maori people in there, just that's what I'm assuming based on what I've just heard this journalist talk about. That just sounds trucking ridiculous. Again, to my earlier point, employ and recruit the most qualified, the most competent people for the role, whatever the role is.
He sets out 5 key changes to the way government operates, including repealing Section 73 of the Public Service Act, which sets out the principles of being a good employer, amending the Act to ensure services are delivered according to need rather than race, separating cultural practices.
Legally enforced service delivery by need, not race. Yeah, service delivery by need, not race. If that applies to, if that service delivery, if by service delivery it means recruitment of the right people based on their competence, then I definitely agree with all of that. It just seems trucking ridiculous. You don't want to go and employ people. Imagine if Imagine if the SAS decided to, we have to have a certain number of ethnic people within the regiment so that it's fair and balanced. Say the Australian SAS, as an example. People have asked me, how many Aboriginal SAS operators were there in the regiment, or are there in the regiment? The genuine answer, honest answer for me has always been, I don't know. I didn't see, I guess my view of and my perspective of like actual Australian Indigenous Aboriginals is like you see the blackfellas, like that's how they refer to themselves in that as well. But you see the real strong Indigenous Aboriginal features. That's not to try to be racist at all. It's just that when I think of an Aboriginal in Australia, I think of a black person, and they've got very distinct features. And I don't think anybody would dispute that. So when people have asked me that, I was like, bro, I didn't see any during my time. There may be some there. There may have even been some in there with Aboriginal heritage, and that's awesome. But it wasn't like we sat around and went, hey, bro, you got any Aboriginal in you? Or you got some Viking in you? What's your heritage? You got Irish in you? Or like we didn't sit around and do any of that. Like we're too busy blanking, trucking on with getting the truck on with the work, training and preparing for potential tasks and jobs that might come up. Not sitting around worrying about blanking, how much heritage have you got? You know, it's sitting around. Well, not really sitting around, but when we did sit around, it's more planning, focusing, and looking ahead in terms of what we're going to be doing next and how we can get better. Anyway.
Including karakia from public work and removing the...
Hang on, let's... just based on what I've heard, I'm going to rewind because I've obviously missed that. That's another thing. Don't get me wrong. People that have their religious belief that want to have karakia before they come to work, before they enter and start a hui, or when they finish a hui or whatever, that's cool. If that's what you want to do as an individual, I got no issue with it. But to then impose that, this is just my take, to do what to me felt like my people imposing a process and a system into the office, into the workspace, into the corporate environment. So I'm using corrections as an example when I was working there. Great place to work, don't get me wrong. Like full of really good people, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time there. Me leaving that to go to reintegration, I saw as an opportunity for me to be a bit more hands-on and actually try to make more of a difference in some of those individuals' lives that have been in and out of the system. But in the end, corrections, like there was this, it is a constant, the agenda, cool, no issues. But the karakia at the start and karakia at the end, it felt like to me that people were uncomfortable in doing it. Like it didn't feel natural to them in terms of doing that as part of a meeting at the start and or at the end. And it also felt, so not only did it feel unnatural and it seemed like it made people feel uncomfortable, it seemed like to me that it was unnecessary a lot of the time. I mean, if you want to come into that space and into that meeting and you want to try to conduct yourself as professionally and as thoughtful and as respectful and as considerate as you can, that's on you as the individual. This is just my take. That's on you as the individual in terms of how you prepare, what you're going to be speaking about, what you understand and don't understand, what you're prepared to acknowledge and not acknowledge, all of that sort of stuff. How you prepare before you go into any meeting, regardless of what industry or organization you're in, is on you. If you're coming into that meeting hot-tempered and angry and elevated and whatever, it's probably going to come across. And having a karakia at the start in te reo Māori, or in a language which probably a lot of people, from which I noticed, a lot of people within the room didn't understand the words that were coming out, and people making real honest attempts where te reo Māori wasn't their first language, were genuinely trying to pronounce as well as they could, isn't, in my opinion, going to make a difference. But anyway, I need to go back and hear what he's talking about. I think I just heard him say karakia, so...
Separating cultural practices, including karakia, from public work and removing the need to understand te tiriti. And
that part I can, I agree with as well. Separate spiritual and cultural practices from public work. It's sort of leads into what I was just, or leads into what I was talking about, leads into what I've just heard here and seen that pop up on the screen. You know, it's not for everybody. A lot of people, there's a number of people who are atheists, and I worked with people that were atheists at corrections. It made them very uncomfortable. They didn't want to participate and or have to sit there to listen to a karakia. And that's fair enough to me. I mean, if you want to talk about respecting people's individualism and their differences, and I've got no issue with that. Same time, people will talk about, well, you need to assimilate into the environment that you're in. And so I understand that as well. So as part of, that's what corrections do, or Te Arapo Tamao Te Aroa, or Arapo Tamao Te Aroa, I should say, Department of Corrections, whatever term people want to use. I did it. I sat there, okay, cool. I even offered the karakia sometimes in Te Reo Māori. Very basic, short, simple ones. And then they also had a list of where it's written out in Te Reo, and then had the English translations. And good on corrections for doing that. Again, if that's part of their culture that they've embedded in their way of looking to respect te tiriti, cool. Oh, well and good. Not that I personally wanted it, and I personally would not have bothered or cared at all whether it was, if it was removed and if we didn't do it. And to be fair, there were a number of meetings that I did attend, that I did have, whereby we didn't open and start with a karakia. That was more on a smaller scale. But even then, I noticed a number of people, you know, there was just this embedded thing. We need to have a karakia. We need to close with a cut. We need to open. We need to close. I mean, if you're not that way inclined, I don't see any issue with not having one. And I like what I see there. Separate spiritual and cultural practices from public work. Those seem like spiritual ones and cultural practices. No disrespect to my Māori people and those that are matatau te reo Māori, like they're fluent and they have massive and deep understanding of it, which I don't. That's cool. But you're there to do a job. You're there to do public work. Imagine if in the SAS in Australia, we started every meeting or every deployment, every job with a welcome to country. What the truck and hell, man. It's just like, there is work to be done. So when you're in that workspace and there's mahi to get started and to get into and to blink and crack out for the benefit, especially in public service sector, for the public benefit of other people, then blink and let them get on with their work. Anyway.
Eventually overhauling the Public Service Act altogether. But the Public Service Association says ACT's latest blow won't be their last.
This policy is racist and divisive. ACT will only be happy once they've removed the last remaining rights that working people have and the very elements which make our public service effective and representative of New Zealand.
See,
Well, that's. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion, eh? I just want to go back and hear that again. She feels that it's racist and divisive, I think she said. Fleur Fitzsimmons, PSA, National Secretary. Is that one of the unions? Is that what that is? Yeah, it's just...
won't be their last.
This policy is racist and divisive. ACT will only be happy.
Racist and divisive. Wow. I don't think it is, Fleur Fitzsimmons. This is from somebody, myself. I consider myself to be a proud Māori, but I don't think I need to have in every hui or every meeting that I attend, and I've worked in the public sector and I've worked in the private sector and I've worked in a whole bunch of other places where it's been, where we haven't done that. Corrections has been the first place that I've been at, whereby the incorporation of a te ao Māori worldview and te reo Māori in the form of karakia to open, karakia to close, honouring and respecting and being mindful of te tiriti and the conduct and handling and communication with inmates, prisoners, and even with staff across the corrections, custodial, non-custodial departments or organisations, for want of a better term. That's the first place where I've come across it. I don't think it needs it. I would assume Oranga Tamariki probably does it as well. I would assume Kainga Ora probably implements that sort of stuff too. I would assume, I'm pretty sure the Runangas, the various iwi probably do that, but as part of within their organisation. I don't think it's necessary, personally, within a public sector service to have to incorporate those things. You can still be mindful of and still, in your own way, honour and respect te tiriti by doing what's right in the public sector space. This is just my take. By doing what's right in the public sector space, by fulfilling your role to the best of your ability, by having the right people that are employed in those roles recruited for them because they are blanket experts at it, or they are very competent at it, and they've got the heart for it. They've got the heart and the right attitude, and they're doing what they can for the betterment of their particular portfolio or cohort or project or assignment that they've been given for that particular community or group of peoples. We've got the Pacifica, we've got Maori and Pacifica, we've got other ethnicities. I don't know if I've heard that we've got Anglo-Saxon, if that's the term that we're using. I know a lot of the term gets used of colonizers and colonization. How divisive is that term in and of itself? Some people view Pākehā, the use of the term by Māori, and other people, the use of the term Pākehā, as divisive or feeling like that's racist. I've used that term, I use it a fair bit, but I don't use it to be racist or divisive or discriminatory. Is that the right word? I use it just in relation to those are non-Māori. Those are people that aren't Māori. That's my basic understanding of it. There may be deeper bones and roots to it, and all well and good if there is. But my take, and when I'm using it, is just to describe that's a non-Māori person. I may not necessarily know exactly what ethnicity or where they're from, so I'll use the term Pākehā. Yeah. Anyway, let's carry on with this. There's a lot in here, man. I could have done this as a live stream. Anyway.
Once they've removed the last remaining rights that working people have and the very elements which make our public service effective.
I don't see how that piece of what ACT is speaking about, and I'm not a supporter of ACT. I'm not a supporter of any party at this stage. Actually, the party that I would support right now is One Nation, but they're over in Australia. So I'm not a Labour or a National or a Te Pāti Māori or a ACT or a, what's the other one? The Opportunity Party. Is that Top Greens Party? Whatever else, Dad's Army's Party. Is that NZ First? Like, none of those. I'm no clearer. I have no clearer understanding of who I'm going to vote for, if I'm even going to vote in this election this year. So I don't think, coming back to what she's saying, I don't think ACT and what I've just heard there, if that's true and accurate, to me, that doesn't sound like they're looking to try to strip away people's rights. It sounds like they're trying to be as practical as they can, separate spiritual and cultural context and things that you would do in those settings, keep them there, all good. But a public service sector and job in that space, let's crack on with the work, right? Let's get our country back on steady ground. Let's sort the economy out. Let's sort out all these issues: properties, homelessness, healthcare, education, military, etc., etc. Like, let's get that stuff sorted out, rather than incorporating and combining these things, which don't, in my opinion, they don't need to go together in every organisation, or probably in most organisations.
Effective and representative of New Zealand.
Seymour sees it differently.
No, the current laws remove that. We are a country of people from many different backgrounds, and yet the public service legislation requires one culture and one background to be put ahead of all others.
And while ACT wants to clean up the public service,
that there is probably, in my opinion, again, I'm just basing this on my very narrow view with regards to when I was working at corrections. And for me, that's the only place where I've been, aside from working for the Runanga, but working in the Runanga and Te Ao Māori Reintegration Service, I expected tikanga and kawa and kaupapa Māori aspects, a Te Ao Māori worldview, which was included and encompassed and embedded into that type of service. That's different to the public sector, community-facing world of corrections. You know what I mean? So what David Seymour has said there, in my opinion, is pretty accurate. Like, the Māori focus within corrections, don't get me wrong, awesome, cool, great work, guys, well done. You're really acknowledging and going out of your way to acknowledge Māori people, my people, who I'm proud to be a part of. That's awesome. Thank you very much. But I don't need to, personally, as a Māori, I don't need to have karakia before every meeting, say one at the end, be looked at because I'm the brown face within my team and I can probably pronounce at least the Māori words better, even though I'm not matatoi te reo Māori, but I can probably pronounce some of the Māori words better than the vast majority of the people that were in my team. There's no need for it. Like, why does my heritage or, my background or my people's beliefs and that sort of thing, why does that need to be elevated above the other diverse people that have got in the group? Had people there in my team from the UK, people from Australia, people from New Zealand, people from all over the world, Asians, etc. Why does my Māori culture have to dominate the meeting right from the get-go, karakia, and then it has to close it out, karakia, at the end as well? Like I said, when a lot of people didn't even understand a lot of the words that were being shared, thank goodness corrections went out of their way to have translations side by side and a lot of the ones, and they even developed an app so that you could look, have that open, and then people could use that. People could practice it if they wanted to, so they could learn it off by heart, so they could learn what it was that they were actually saying by having the English translation. I mean, that's cool, but my opinion is unnecessary. And I'm inclined to agree with what David Seymour has said and saying in this particular part of his conversation, in terms of what I'm seeing anyway so far.
The Opportunity Party has set its sights on something even bigger, cleaning up politics itself.
1, 2, 3.
I think New Zealanders are feeling an increased sense of distrust in politicians and our political system.
Understatement of the year. I think our people are, what did you say? Feeling a considerable amount of distrust, or words to that effect. Holy heck, yes. I think for the dare I say the vast majority of people, I'm just thinking of myself there when I say that, to be honest. But I was going to say, I think the vast majority of people have probably felt like that for many, many years. I know I have. Mine has been a combination of distrust in politics and politicians and governments, as well as, to be honest, laziness on my part. Laziness from the perspective of not looking into these parties, not looking into candidates, not looking into the individuals to see who I might be able to more closely align with than the others, and then thereby use my vote effectively to cast it in a way that at least some way, shape or form allows me to think and or believe that I'm being heard, if that makes sense. But ultimately, I trumped any of those sorts of feelings, or my laziness, I call it, with just a pessimistic view and went, my vote won't matter anyway.
Kule Wong announced policies aimed at capping political donations at $30,000 and establishing a political anti-corruption body.
At the moment, we've got parties that can spend significant...
Hang on. Do we not already have a anti-corruption party? A political anti-corruption? Do we not already have that? Am I missing something?
A political anti-corruption body. $30,000 and establishing a political anti-corruption body.
Establishing a political anti-corruption body. Establishing a political anti-corruption body. We don't already have one? Is that right? Is that what it... Or is, like, Australia, their national anti-corruption, whatever it is? Do we not have something like that? Or is a political one something different? You'll have to help me out.
At the moment, we've got parties that can spend significantly more on billboards, on social media advertising, so it's really hard for small parties to get any cut through.
Opportunity seemingly paving the way for future minor parties.
Well, I think that's that sounds good to me in terms of the Opportunity Party. From the perspective of, like, if anybody, like what do they call it, minor parties or smaller parties, or even just people in general, if they wanted to get into politics and have a really good heart about them, attitude and mind, but their only limitation is funding and the resources to be able to get into the game, so to speak, then I think it's good if this is what the Opportunity Party are looking to do, to try to sounds like make things a bit more even across the board, cap funding to $30,000 per party to try to create more of an even keel level playing field, because then the bigger parties who have more money, who just spam and bombard the universe, and then thereby people that don't know who to vote, they just go with whoever they've seen the most in the media. I assume, I don't know if that is the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is what happens, because that's a whole part and parcel of how psyops and all that sort of stuff works as well. And you just keep ramming stuff down people's eyeballs and into their brains through the narrative that you keep pushing. And sooner or later, like, a large number of people are just going to go, oh, who should I vote for? Oh, National. Oh, yeah, I'll vote for National. I've seen them in the news. They wouldn't have a clue otherwise. Yeah, so that's interesting.
And the response from supporters is clear. But the party's promises to clean up politics is already attracting some dirty laundry.
I don't know about those dance moves, eh?
It's getting harder and harder to take these guys seriously. They've had many $100,000, $200,000 donations themselves. So
It just looked like a group of hippies blinking, mincing around in the courtyard. I do like what she shared. This guy's got a counter saying that they've had multiple hundreds of $1,000 donations and stuff as well, which may be the case. And I would assume, to try to give my perspective, they're probably still not getting anywhere near as much as maybe these other larger parties or more prominent parties. And so therefore, of course, in the current state of play, the Opportunity Party is going to use that money as much as they can, based on the generous donations that I assume they receive, in order to try to move themselves up the rankings, so to speak, and to make themselves as prominent as they can. Because otherwise, if they sat back and did nothing, well, then these other bigger parties are going to continue to use their several hundreds of thousands of dollars that they receive in donations to continue, like I said, to blast their campaigns and put themselves front and center of people's voting pen strike.
they're saying, forget it, don't look at those ones. We'll change the law in the future.
And Seymour says that makes Opportunity look a lot less.
Nah, well, I disagree with what Seymour said there, because he knows, like I just tried to explain, but maybe didn't articulate it as well as what I could have. The bigger parties likely get bigger donations. They use their funds. The Opportunity Party, from what I understand, they are a smaller party. They don't get as many donations, but what they do get, so the 100,000, 200,000 compared to 3, 4, 500,000 or more that the bigger parties may get, there's still going to be a massive gap. So by Tulay, sorry, I better not try and say her name. I can't remember what her name is. The Opportunity Party leader, this lady, what she's saying to me makes sense. Like, let's be done away with that. Going into this next election, it is as it is. It stays as it is. The donations are the donations, and people will use them as they see fit to prop themselves up as much as they can. But what the Opportunity Party sounds like what they're saying is, we're going to remove all of that. So there will be a cap and a limit going forward, and then that will make it fairer. I assume that's what she's thinking. That will make it fairer for all the parties and potentially for any new parties that might want to come in. Who knows? The blinking We the People Party. I think, shout out Dan Kidd. I think that was his suggestion. That one's got the most votes so far on one of the polls that I put up. Who knows? There might be a We the People Party ending up in New Zealand politics one day. Maybe Dan will be the one leading it.
It's different from the parties it's criticising.
The Opportunity Party tell us they're new and different, but they're starting to look more and more like all the worst things that they say they're against.
Two parties promising to clean things up, just with very different ideas about what needs cleaning.
All right. Well, yeah, geez, that was only like a 3-minute video? And I've gone for about half an hour. Clearly, I have lots to say. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Those are my takes. Definitely always interested and keen to read the comments and see what other people have to say. I was going to do this as a live. Maybe I still might. Who knows? But I've done this recording now, so I'll put this up, and we'll see what other people have to say. Who's your party? Like, I know that a lot of the people that follow my channel, there's really seems like there's nobody. A few people have said New Zealand First, Dad's Army, aka Dad's Army, from what I understand. Some people are leaning towards the Greens Party because of the man Josh Jacobson, ex-New Zealand SAS, veteran, Medal of Gallantry recipient as well. So he's been involved in some stuff. He's done some stuff, and he's displayed a tremendous amount of courage on operations in the face of enemy fire, in the face of Blinken death, basically. So he's a Greens party candidate. I don't know much about the Greens. People have said, bro, you should have that fella on and have a chat with him, or do an interview with him. I'd love to. We'll see if something down the line can work out one day, whenever that is. He's probably busy, and they're probably got too much on right at the moment with regards to the run into the upcoming elections and all that sort of stuff. So maybe, who knows, maybe after the election I might be able to connect with him in some way, shape or form and have a bit of a chat. But yeah, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on what we've just heard? Whack in the comments what you think, let me know, and I'll see you on the next one.